A substitute teacher and a salesman, he returned to college at the age of 52 to earn a business management degree. His community service includes being a Lions Club president, city planning commissioner, church board president, and Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Council chairman. That's what it's about. When I said before, are you ready to take your communities back? And it's people like Gene Steffanson that is taking his communities back.
I'm here to bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be unto all constitutionalists, libertarians, 912ers, Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Independents, tree huggers, tea partiers, old hippies, young students, gays and straights with all the variations of eye color, hair color, skin tone, dialects, and tastes in clothing. That good news is that with all our peculiarities, we're all standing here today as sons and daughters of liberty, as patriots. This feels like a family reunion, doesn't it? More good news is that today we're recovering from the lack of awareness that afflicted many of us a year or two ago, our blind faith in our elected officials. This is the bright spot, the silver lining in the absurdities we witness on a daily basis. They've awakened us to our responsibility of eternal vigilance. Even more good news is that enemies of life, liberty, and property are clearly identifying themselves as never before. As our treasury is raided, our children's birthrights plundered, our freedoms threatened, we have smug politicians who are embarrassments to our country and to our individual states. It's like they're actually putting on red coats. The good news is that we live in a representative republic and we can still vote. We enjoy the freedom to assemble here today, and we still enjoy freedom of the press. Now, if you're like me, after the Bush bailout, you joined one of the Patriot or 912 or Tea Party groups. After the Tax Day Tea Party, we all asked ourselves, now what? Didn't we? What do we do now? I've got some ideas. I was in my 50s when I went to college, so my style was different than that of my classmates. One day after I'd made a presentation, my professor came up to me and said, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it. I might have been different, but I was on the right track. I suggest the same thing to you. Whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. Whatever it is you're doing is encouraging your fellow patriots. If you look at the size of this reunion, somebody is here because you encouraged them. The good book reminds us, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. My background is small business, mostly turnarounds. The mechanics of a business turnaround can be applied to our political dilemma. The first step, of course, is to define the underlying problems that led to the disaster in the first place. This isn't always an easy task, but as I've read the signs around me, I think we've identified many of the problems in this political turnaround. It's an important first step. But then the fun starts, the important second step, implementing corrective action. And here's the trick. Once a problem has been identified, it's time to refocus on corrective action. When we walk or drive or ride a bike, we drift toward whatever it is we're looking at. When we focus on problems, we drift off course. As we implement the solution, the problem goes away. Focus, concentrate on the corrective action, and work on it together. Be part of that cord of 3 strands. The good news is that most New England voters have the same concerns we do. When your home loses a quarter of its value, it doesn't care if you're Republican or Democrat. The dollars that disappeared from your 401k were nonpartisan. I see the line between political parties blurring as the old line of 1773 is redrawn. that line between self-sufficient, freedom-loving patriots and Tories licking the hands of the aristocracy who feeds them. A year ago, many of us were uninformed or misled. Thank God for the Great Awakening of Odd 8. Now, as we share our new vision, let's be sure we inform our friends and neighbors accurately and not be confrontational when it's not appropriate. For example, let's just say I'm a follower of the economic school of Barney Frank, but you think Ron Paul has a tighter grasp on reality. Now, we could bat this back and forth till the cows come home without affecting the other's opinion. Arguments are like that. It's not a good sales approach. But when you can demonstrate to me how my boy Barney has been clueless since the 90s, that he preferred rolling the dice, his words, to professional oversight, that he said the bailout was not part of an endless series of events, that he recently predicted our economy would be back on track as early as this year. When you can demonstrate your claims and show me a wiser choice, then you've done a good sales job, and I'll switch brands. If we attack or argue, we polarize people. They just plant their feet and stop thinking. Our job is to enlighten and persuade, not offend. We should demonstrate our goods, give evidence for our positions, not criticize people for being uninformed or misled, as some of us once were. Let me read you something I saw online yesterday. What would happen if all the groups that seek their own civil rights were to join together and instead of being considered pesky nuisances, became a force of freedom for all? Doesn't that sound like something you or I could have written? I read it on a left-wing website. We have the message everyone craves, a force of freedom for all. Makes you want to hug a liberal, doesn't it? Let's make sure everyone knows where they can find us. Our message is a positive one. Individual freedoms, low taxation, and controlled government transformed 13 colonies into the greatest economic, military, and social power in history. What's raising China's standard of living today? Totalitarianism or capitalism? Are citizens of Canada, England, Australia, Europe, and South America encouraging us to imitate their own moves towards socialism, or do they warn us of the dangers of following their missteps? Our message is positive. John F. Kennedy said, "The ignorance of one voter impairs the security of all." Reasonable people will listen to a reasonable presentation. Now, there is a small, loud minority so polarized they won't discuss issues. They simply get abusive. We know that'll happen. We remember it from grade school. But even the Garden of Eden had its serpent. When we're bullied by our enemies, we can remember that proverb we all learned in first grade. Everyone, please repeat